What? It's been a while?
I know. Do you remember how
I
to
see
do
the
it?
t-shirt. No, I can't remember.
We'll talk about films and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It'll come back to you.
Hello and welcome back to the Cinema Minute. I'm Grant Robson.
And I'm Chris J. Allen.
This week we're going to be talking about Warcraft. It's been out in the UK for a couple of weeks now. I haven't seen it personally, but Chris has seen it, and we're going to get it down.
Sort of last week actually. It's coming out in America this week though, so we thought we'd drop a spoiler-free, just quick reaction, quick review to let you know my thoughts on it. You haven't caught this one yet, but
Not
you
yet,
have
no.
quite been
Got a
excited for
t-shirt,
it.
though.
I was going to say, someone's got a loot crate this week. You know, someone's showing it off with his...
Yes, what do you mean, the loot crate? What are these things,
that's
Christopher?
fine. Something that you're making me want to sign up for, like, now. Like you say it's just leaning off midway through the review.
It's the
Get my
Thanos
credit
of a
card
myth
out,
that
yeah.
makes it. You make anything in the universe with this. That's a
fair.
good little tagline, actually. Anyway, back to the
Infinity
review.
War over here. Okay, so I went to see this in IMAX 3D last week, and again on a visual level, that was a real high
Yeah, I
point
can imagine,
for me.
yeah, definitely.
This is a film that I think we've talked about before, being something that's kind of potentially one of the upcoming, potentially going to be the change in video game
Yeah,
related
absolutely,
films. With Assassin's Creed also coming out. We were talking a couple of weeks back. Is this what's going to break the mold of this sort of like thing where people say, "Oh, it's a video game related film for all canny crap or whatever."
Carry the
You know what I mean?
seriousness that like a novel or a comic book.
Yeah,
film
you know
would
what I mean. Like
do.
they're always kind of written off as a bit of like trash.
Yeah.
From the Super Mario Brothers film to like the Resident Evil films being sort of cheesy horror ones or whatever, and
Never
like.
ending.
And like or Doom, and things which have just kind of not really worked
Yeah,
in most regards. And we were saying with Duncan Jones obviously making this one, directing this one, following Moon, following Source Code 2,
Wow.
Moon especially, like an absolute
what a fantastic
home run.
film. Big fan favourite for us as well. Absolutely loved that film. So seeing him behind the wheel of such a big blockbuster, a lot of CGI, a lot of fight scenes, a lot of money into that.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's something that really put me in two minds before this one. Again, obviously, that's such an interesting initial place to come from. Sort of an indie, sort of low budget, but fascinating, unique, amazing film. Then Source Code, despite it being a bit bigger, a bit more action setting, still managing to keep that, something that made it original, made it unique, made it sort of creatively interesting, and especially the setting of it, that sort of time jumping setting, if you've never seen Source Code before. Those two films, even in their structure, like seem unique.
Yeah, definitely.
It's then how does that director go from those lower budget, really interesting things,
Drama driven, really.
yeah, despite them being sort of genre pieces, being a sci-fi, being sort of an action adventure sort of thing, how do you then go on to something which is a massive multi-million dollar blockbuster? And like
Quite a step.
again, exactly, and it's something we've seen directors recently kind of stumble on. People saying that being, thinking back to last summer, Fantastic Four, pretty much that exact same thing. Again, a director who's come from very much an indie background, directing Chronicle before, sort of something small, unique, but interesting, and kind of doing interesting things with the genre, then going to something massive. Well, again,
We'll
and
see
you
it
remember
fail,
what the
yeah.
sort of
Absolutely.
criticism for Fantastic Four was. Again, was this going to be a repeat of that? And I think a bit. Like, I
Right.
didn't, like, so, to get the crux of what I actually thought about this film, yes and no. Like, there's a lot I enjoyed in this film, and that stuff which is Duncan Jones coming through. Like, there was a lot of heart and humour in certain parts.
Yeah. where it
And
was
very
needed.
good, yeah, to an extent. Especially heart. And, especially for sort of, like, family dynamic, which I think was really interesting for it. Again,
Yeah,
as much as this is a film about war, and, like, these orcs coming through into our dimension, into this sort of the humans realm sort of thing, this kingdom, and this being the sort of crux of the film, them fighting. The actual story, the actual drama comes a lot more within those camps themselves, and the sort of family dynamics going on there, like
Right.
fathers and sons and wife relationships as well. Again, but this film, if nothing else, does represent that side of it
The whole family
too.
dynamic as well. That's
and
a
like,
really interesting point.
And that's
forward.
something interesting to do in a massive blockbuster
Exactly,
film.
yeah.
But it does sometimes get lost under that sort of massive essentially let's do our own world, Lord of the Rings sort of knockoff sort of.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, because it's been compared to a lot to trying to beat or mirror the franchise of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's impossible to go into this film and not compare it to Lord of, especially, you know, in recent years, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, for, you know, sort of massive blockbuster style, and for equally a massive fantasy Game of Thrones as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's again where I think to some extent it fails. So, you know, Game of Thrones is epic because it's, you know, in its 6 series now, you know, 10 episodes a series, so you get a lot of time in this world. Then to squeeze that into 2 hours and try to make it as sort of fitting is a bit, you know, is tough.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, you know, I think that's where it fails a bit. Like, it does cram a lot into under 2 hours. In fact, it's under 2 hours, probably a good thing after a lot of the like super long films we've had recently. So, you know, I can live with that fact.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it's world building. You know, the interesting thing about this film is that it's called Warcraft in America, but in the UK, its title was Warcraft: The Beginning, and it very much feels like that beginning point. In that, you know, it's obviously the studio saying like, we want this to be our big franchise. We want this to be the equivalent of our Lord of the Rings, where we can do 6 of them with the Hobbits.
Which you can definitely see, you know, with the amount of money that's been put into this.
Absolutely. Again, and you know, the popularity of and the enduring popularity of the video game franchise, you know, that's clearly what the studio had in mind.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting point because whereas Lord of the Rings had a lot of history, decades to build up that audience from, Warcraft came from this area.
I mean, you know, I think it's a very different audience as well,
exactly.
You know, that video game audience. And that is, you know, partly where the differences between, you know, a more traditional narrative in some respects in a book being adapted into a film, or a play being adapted into a film perhaps, is very, very different to a video game being adapted into a film. And, you know, I think it is still where the audience is still going to be there because, you know, the game itself and the popularity of it maybe reflects that. But then how it actually translates into a film, that's something different. Again, you know, it's taking you're not in control of it, you're watching it. You know, is it just watching a 2-hour-long cutscene or something, you know what I mean? And some of the things it gets right seems to be the fact that you can tell Duncan Jones loves the game. You can tell he is a gamer, and you can tell he's got passion for this franchise. Again, compared to some like indie directors perhaps going on to something and not seeming to a bigger project and not seeming to care about it, especially when it comes to some blockbuster stuff. You know, that can be a problem, and you know, someone just kind of phoning it in.
Yeah.
That isn't the case here, and I think that's why you get those things which do seem distinctly like Duncan Jones coming through. You know, that passion, but also trying to squeeze in an interesting story too. But I think sometimes it does just get lost under like trying to make things big and epic. And you know, the fight scenes are good, but the magic scenes are interesting. But I think it's, I don't know, I think the mix, the ingredients are maybe. So I've never played this. You haven't either.
I haven't either. But
again, you know, for another
very
thing,
interested to play it.
you know, big fan of Skyrim, I suppose. Again, for a similar thing, but again, something that does it seriously to an extent, despite having magic and dragons and all, you know, sort of fantasy, much like Game of Thrones, much like Lord of the Rings. But I think what, to me, what seems like something that this film should have done more is like leaned into its weirdness and like taken advantage of that it is kind of ridiculous. And like, I think that would have set it apart and made it quite a bit of a better film in some respects. You know, I think it kind of plays it safe to an extent because you know, it's stuff we're so familiar, like we're familiar with, and it's kind of giving you again.
But I suppose with that age-old kind of concept of people making mistakes in these films when they're trying to adapt them, it is probably a good thing to play it safe with the first film.
It's hard, but again, that's sort of like
if it's too safe.
If you're going to come out of it, and you know, again, it's a few days since I've seen it now, and you know, it's kind of already drifted from my memory. So you know, is it being safe and fine, which for some is, you know, like people say maybe going into it expecting it like maybe it's going to be a train wreck, and it's good. Like that's the thing I would recommend. But like,
but the high note in his voice.
I didn't know. That's apparently you can always judge it on the like decibel level. Then apparently, I'm being really low voice. I'll do full James Earl Jones sort of Vader style. But you know, I think the things you come away with, I think, and again, not to spoil it, is those smaller moments, you know, those family moments, especially one towards the start of the film, again, it's in the trailer, of the lead character and his sort of baby and his wife. And, you know, that family dynamic, the positive way it shows the mother as well, and not just as sort of a female lead, but like a character who has, you know, power in the scene. Like, that is sweet and intimate and nice. And, you know, I think one of the benefits of this film, again, like, it characterizes the orcs as well as it does the humans, if not more interesting.
Actually, because as you say with the Lord of the Rings, when you get a monster in a film, it tends to always be the enemy. It never tends to be a saviour or anything like that. With this family dynamic built upon the orcs, obviously the orcs separate from Lord of the Rings, completely separate, have kind of no amazing dialogue. There's kind of no.
Well, that's it. I mean,
no humanity in them, so that's a good thing to see.
You know, and that is this film's real strength, and what I would recommend it on. You know, the fact it does do some interesting characterization of some of these characters. Yeah. Again, not to ruin it, there's some really good fights. There is that sort of layers of humanity. The style of it is something I think is really interesting. It looks representative of the game. I think that's going to be quite a lot to take in for some people, because some of the visuals are seemingly like super saturated, super over the top as well. Like you've seen in the trailers with massive green explosions and very blue magic effects and stuff like that. Look, you know, again, I think that's a really good experience where it definitely comes through too if you get the possibility of seeing it in that way too. That's your plans for the weekend sorted, I guess. But you know, I think I can see where that would put some people off because it looks gamey to an extent. But you know, again, for its audience, which is totally appropriate. There's a lot of death in this film as well. Again, you know, like talking about Game of Thrones, like it's got no problem with sort of killing off characters, which will be interesting for this film being, if it is indeed the beginning of a franchise, it'll be interesting to see where they go next. I would say I did enjoy it and came out of it enjoying it, but not necessarily being able to put my finger on why. And I think, thinking about it since, again, it is those things of me going into it wanting to like it, I think, and knowing I like Duncan Jones. But then equally having the sort of bad expectations of every video game film that's come to pass. So, you know, the majority of these that's come so far.
Well, only saving grace is this in Assassin's Creed. So.
And I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that one turns out, because while this isn't a total, you know, washout for me, you know, it's an interesting place to start. It did certainly make me want to see more. So again, you know, it's interesting to see if this film will do well, and that will be something which will be a possibility. But I guess only time
comic books, new games, all the merchandise that'll come along with this.
I was gonna say, obviously it could be. You know, you can see why they want this to be a big franchise, and it'll be interesting to see if it does become one.
So, what was your overall thought? Just as your final thought.
Again, would recommend. Go in with that maybe pinch of salt of like it being a video game thing, and you know, it taken those tropes of Lord of the Rings, but it being done with love. Excellent. And like even where it kind of maybe doesn't work, you know, 100% of the time, especially if you're going into the expectations of thinking it's going to be
like Lord of the Rings,
or even like Moon, you know, like taking the quality from there, or taking your sort of quality from Lord of the Rings, you know, it's not going to live up to those heights. But again, I think it's not the Super Mario Brothers film either, I suppose, you know what I mean?
That's a good.
Which I think, you know, in that the grand standard of video games, it's closer to the top than the bottom, which, you know, maybe isn't that much of a difficult thing to do at the minute, but you know, you've got to take what you can get, I suppose. Sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's certainly one I want to see. I will be checking it out this weekend, no doubt in IMAX 3D by the sound of things.
We'll recommend. Not sponsored by IMAX, but if they do want to sponsor,
or Loot Crate, by the way.
But that's the thing. Again, you know, like you like free stuff. I like seeing things on a very big screen, apparently. So you know,
throw some tickets.
As always, though, let us know what you thought. Have you seen this one? Did it live up to your expectations of the game? Does it look like something you would want to be a future franchise opener as well? We'd love to hear from you in all the usual places.
Yep, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and also make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube for the latest episodes.
Yep, we really appreciate that too. Obviously, all that support, all that sharing, just gets the word out there more, and obviously we really enjoy doing these, and we're getting a load of positive feedback too, so we're really glad. Yeah, really glad to hear that you're enjoying them too. But for this in a minute, thank you very much. I've been Chris Allen again.
I've been Grant Robson.
Apparently, it's just how we're finishing.
It's good night from me, and it's good night from him.
Grant's off to bake something with his Galactus.
Anything in the universe.
I'm off to watch things on a big screen.
Mock exam
papers. Teaching, guys.
Alright, thanks very much.
See you later, guys. Thank you.